I'm a person who loves challenges. Whenever there's a challenge that is presented in front of me, I usually think about what it takes to be able to achieve this challenge and what kind of sacrifices, what kind of obstacles will I have to jump through in order to actually even pursue the challenge. And then once I'm in this challenge, it is the constant grind that intrigues me, the constant ability to deal with that voice in your head that tells you to stop, tells you that this isn't worth it, that tells you that this is stupid, we can do something else. And then on top of that, you have another voice whom is telling you, you can do this. This is nothing. This is no big deal. This is who you are. This challenge is not stronger than you. You are the ultimate. You are the best. You know, all these different voices and ideas and concepts that's going back and forth in your head actually is something that I think is so important when it comes to living life. And I think life is about exploring, taking on adventures, seeking new challenges and overcoming obstacles and making just life an overall journey of accomplishments and success and gratitude. So what I want to talk to you about today is probably the hardest challenge you will have to face. And that is the challenge of understanding and accepting that you are God. Now, there are three common issues, or I should say, three types of challenges that comes up for many people when thinking about this understanding and this concept and realizing this truth for yourself. The first one is truly allowing yourself to understand the concept that I'm sharing with you. Understanding, what do I mean when I say you are God? And then separating that from what you understand God to be. And so as we exchange and as I continue to share with you, you're going to constantly go back and forth between what I'm saying and what you have been programmed and what you grew up learning or understanding about this concept of God. And so the hardest thing is, one, allowing yourself to hear me, right? Just listening to the concept is really hard for a lot of people. They tend to throw back or regurgitate ideas and words and text and quotes and all kinds of things that doesn't really engage in the conversation. It's just a projection or a rejection that doesn't really allow for the individual to expand their mind and just listen. Because listening does not mean you are accepting. There are many times where I can understand a person's point of view. I can understand the way they think, their teachings, their methodology, their beliefs. But for me, I don't agree with it. And it takes a lot of confidence in who you are and what you know to be right for you in order to do that. And what I find is that many people really don't have the confidence in what they think they believe, because when you do, then you can easily allow for somebody else to share their thoughts, be intrigued by it, allow them to share it without feeling a sense of having to protect yourself or feeling offended in any way. So the concept of understanding that you are God is based on the concept of your consciousness being the only reality and the only thing that is creating your reality. So everything that you are experiencing, everything that you see, feel, touch, interpret, project, interject, whatever it is, everything that you're experiencing is a result of your consciousness. And we tend to think outside of our consciousness. We tend to try to imagine a world or a concept or a intelligence outside of our consciousness, and it's really impossible for you to do. We tend to try to think objectively, but that's really impossible for you to do, because there is always you and your consciousness, your beliefs, your thoughts, your influences, constantly in the background of everything that you think, do, and say. Therefore, when you think about the concept of God, realize that that concept of God is created from your consciousness. And this is where I say, you are God. You are actually the creator of your reality. You are the creator of your universe. Everything is a manifestation, an interpretation, an expression of your consciousness. You are projecting it out and you are experiencing it at the same time. This is the beauty of you. This is the beauty of each individual. But you cannot experience what individuals are experiencing. You can only experience what you are experiencing. This is why you're in this space of, though you can be empathetic, compassionate, understanding of other individuals, you are still coming from your perspective and placing yourself in their shoes to think about how would you feel if you were in their shoes, though you will never be in their shoes. And this is why we say you are God, because this is your space, your domain, your reality. And though we all share a universal, right, realm of the universe, we are still creating our own individual universes at the same time, simultaneously. And we can only live and be from the space of our own reality. And this is consciousness. This is what I mean when I say you are God. You are literally creating everything that you are experiencing. Now, this concept can be very difficult for people to understand, mainly because they are stuck on the concept of what they believe God is. And this is the second issue, the second challenge for people, is they have an idea, what they were taught from their parents, from their guardians, from their community, their culture, that this is what God is. God looks like this. And what I'm saying to you is that is something that you have been taught. And even though you was taught it, it doesn't make it the absolute truth. The absolute truth is that that was taught to you and you've accepted it. And though it still resonates with you and it holds power, you actually are the fuel behind that power, behind that belief. It isn't the thing you believe in, but in fact, your belief in it that gives it power. And so because you were taught since you were a child, or even you had some miraculous event that has happened to you to cause you to come to some realization, it is still influenced by the things that you've experienced in life. If somebody is brung up in an environment where they're nothing but Christians, they're not going to miraculously have an experience that is based on Islamic principles because they have never experienced Islam before. They will never miraculously just have a Buddhist experience because that is not the background that they were programmed with. They will most likely identify with Jesus because Jesus was taught to that person. And it goes which way and every way around. If somebody is brought up Buddhist and they didn't identify with it before, but they have some kind of miraculous realization, they will identify with Buddha. And so it is a product of your upbringing that allows you to identify with certain spiritual beliefs. But ultimately, those religious beliefs and those spiritual understandings about life and consciousness and reality, they're all saying the same thing. This is one of the most profound lessons I understood when I set out on my spiritual journey. I studied as many religions as I could. And what I found is that most of these religions are saying the same thing ultimately. And that's how I realized this journey is not about religion. This journey is about truly understanding the connection between all these religions and what the truth is and the teachings of the religion. And that's how I define spirituality. Now, when we get into the third obstacle people have to deal with when it comes to this realization of understanding that you are God, is the ego, managing the ego. Now, the first two examples I mentioned has to do with the ego as well. The ego influences those two examples, but even if you go beyond and you can get through those first two examples, understanding the concept and letting go of your idea of God, the ego itself has to be addressed. And understanding that many people think you need to get rid of the ego. The ego is bad. But really, the ego is a productive part of our human experience. We need the ego. And you must understand that it is not getting rid of the ego that is going to take you further along the spiritual journey. It is accepting, but managing the ego. And many people tend to be stuck in their ego because the ego is about separation. And so when we have to come to this or address this realization that we are God, it is difficult for a lot of people because they are so identified with the ego, they can't understand the oneness of this concept and how you are the creator of this concept, which makes you the one, right, within the oneness. And so many people are so identified with their ego, it's hard for them to grasp this right away. And it is okay. It takes time. It is the ego that is holding you back from really realizing this truth and coming to the understanding of oneness and that you are the center of the oneness that you are living. When you address all those things, and that is the process of the spiritual journey, to address each and every one of those things. I've been raised with certain belief systems. I was raised Christian. I studied Islam. I studied multiple religions, and I've come to understand that this is the most difficult part, is letting go of what you were brought up to believe and realizing that it is okay. There are many different religions and many different spiritual belief systems out there. If you identify with one, that is okay. Within that, trust me, it is saying the same thing that I am sharing with you now. I'm just getting straight to it. I'm not speaking in any kind of metaphors, any kind of storytelling. I'm just telling you straight. Now, as you continue to read through your texts or your books, there are going to be some things that are going to show up now. And when you start to read those things, first off, it will be an amazing experience. Allow yourself to read it. Allow yourself to hear it. Allow yourself to open up to this, because it's going to take you to a beautiful level, amazing space. Yes, you're going to have to confront some things, particularly the ego, the mismanaged ego, but ultimately you will open up and you will have such an amazing spiritual journey and a spiritual awakening that you will actually be more fulfilled. And it doesn't matter which religion you're identified with. You're going to be so much more fulfilled, and you're going to have a deeper connection with that religion, with that faith, with that understanding, and more importantly, with yourself. I hope that helps you and supports you on your journey, because this is something that you are going to experience more and more. You're going to hear this more and more. This is the awakening that's happening in our universal collective consciousness. People are awakening. The shift is happening. You are part of the shift. Continue to join me on this journey. Peace and abundance always.